Hey friends, the Dividend Snowball. It's working really well for me these days. I just did a portfolio update over on my Corner Patreon, and it was so interesting because I analyzed my performance as a dividend investor over the last quarter. I wanted to see how much has my dividend income increased over the last quarter, and it was roughly 2.4%. I was really encouraged by this because Q2 for me, it's kind of a weak quarter. I don't have as much capital to deploy typically during Q2 each year. Moreover, I have a bunch of my dividend stocks that are on selective reinvestment, and I try my best to selectively reinvest the dividends, but in Q2 especially, I need to draw from those dividends to help pay bills. Nonetheless, during a weaker quarter, a slower quarter, my dividend income still increased by 2.4%. And if we annualize that, we're looking at about 9.6%, or if I round up, almost 10% income increase per year. I am really excited about that because I'm at a point in my journey right now where I'm kind of on that home stretch. In fact, I think I have about 6 years left in this game. I have 6 years left before I get to that end state where I'm going to feel, hey, this dividend income, this is really what I wanted as my goal. So I want to share some analysis with you. This is my portfolio, my growth of my portfolio by value and by dividend income over time. I want to look at the math today because the math is very encouraging. So check it out. Check it out on the screen right now. This is part of a much larger spreadsheet that I just shared with my Corner patrons. I'll include a link in the pinned comment below to my Corner Patreon. And what this shows is my portfolio value and my dividend income, projected annual dividend income over time. The first row there, the 327.25 delta, what I have measured here is, hey Ian, on 625.25 versus 327, so that's basically Q2 of this year. How did I do? Well, as you can see in the table, my portfolio value was actually down. It was down by about 0.5%. Why was it down? Because the market has been volatile. Even though I have been reinvesting some of my dividends and I have been contributing capital, although a little lesser than I would in other quarters during the year, the portfolio value went down. And so that is actually very interesting, though, because the dividend income was up 2.4%. And so the first lesson from this table here today is that dividend income and portfolio value are not directly correlated. It's possible to grow dividend income like clockwork over time, even when portfolio value can fluctuate. And so for me as a dividend investor, this goes back to one of the lessons from today, to look at the math. I like to look at the dividends over time. I like to project the dividend income. I like to run calculations, many of which I'm going to share with you today on my dividends because that's tangible, it's realistic, it's what I can model. Portfolio value, it can go any direction, but generally speaking, over time, look, I'm throwing a lot of money at this. I'm reinvesting. The companies that I own are world class. The value will follow over time. But as you can see on the screen, let's keep going. So I have a lot to share with you today. But on this first table, what I want to share with you is just how I'm doing some of my modeling. So I like to look at my past data to help indicate where am I going to be headed in the future? Because I just shared, hey, I need to double my dividend income one more time, kind of before hitting my goal state, and actually taking a step back from that. This is just one general rule I like to look at as a dividend investor. I don't think I've shared this one on my YouTube channel before, but I look at this journey as a series of doubles. I have my dividend income here. I need to double it to here. I need to double it again to here. Over my many decades of dividend investing, I've been through a lot of doubles. I have one last double that I'm trying to do right now. And I believe, based on my modeling, it will only take about 6 years. But let's keep going. As you can see on the screen in front of you right now, let's look at the past. And so that last quarter, my dividend income grew by 2.4%. And if I take 2.4% and I just annualize it going forward, and I think that's fair because this was a slower quarter, I'm annualizing on a run rate basis about 9.6% per year in terms of dividend income growth. I round that up to 10. But let's look a little longer over the last 2 quarters, because the delta from 12, 11, 24, it's about 4.73%. And let's take that number and double it. If I double 4.73%, that's the growth in my income over the last 2 quarters. Again, I'm kind of getting to about 9.5%. If I push just a little harder, I again think that's annualizing to about 10%. And again, Q1's kind of a weak quarter for me as well. It's really Q3 and Q4 where I go strongest. And you can kind of see that. You can see that really quickly because when I look over the last 3 quarters, I'm up 8.76% in terms of dividend income. And over the last over 4 quarters, 1.1 years, but I'm up 19.51%. Now that's a little bit misleading that I'm up 19%, 19.51%, because a lot of capital was added to some of the sin stocks in the beginning of this time period, which I'm measuring here in the 1.1 years, and that catapulted my dividend income to the next level. But that's part of the journey too. If I want to get another double, if I want to get from point A to point B quicker, there are these one-off opportunities from time to time where I can just kind of go a little aggressive and put a lot of capital into the high yielders. But that's why it is that way when I'm looking at the 1.1 years. It wasn't really a normal sequence of events because I had a one-off opportunity to go very big in the sin stocks. I'll link to some of those videos in the pinned comment below. And that really helped my income. Hence, I'm up 19.5% year over year in terms of income. But let's keep going. As you can see on the screen, I go back further in time. And one of the things I wanted to point out, if you compare my income from April of 2023, so over the last 2.22 years, my income, dividend income, it's only up 31%. And one of the reasons for that, or the main reason for that, is I sold some stocks back then. So right after I published my update from April 8th of 23, I sold some stocks for a real estate transaction, and the portfolio value decreased, the dividend income decreased, and I have been rebuilding from that since. But that was kind of my previous high, my previous peak. And I'm happy to announce that now my portfolio value and my dividend income is substantially higher than the previous peak. One of the reasons that the dividend income has outpaced portfolio value so much is I have been more focused on driving current yield versus dividend growth over time. So, why do I share all of this? This is the story. This is the backdrop to what I have been living the last few years. And again, my corner patrons, I'll link to this in the pinned comment below. They already know about this. But this is the backstory. I need to look at the past to understand how I'm going to progress in the future. Because I could make up numbers all day, but what I need to do is not look at made up numbers, but look at, Ian, what have you really done? And I believe the most accurate way of looking at data for me is probably at the last few quarters run rate, because that's kind of a normalized level. And so I believe going forward, I'm probably going to be averaging about 10% income growth per year. So what does that mean for me? What does that mean for me? I want to look at an analysis now where I'm projecting forward based on this past data, kind of where I'm going to be in the next few years. I'm at a baseline right now of income. We'll call it 1 or 100%. I want to double it. So that would get to a 2 or 200%. How would that happen? Let's look. So as you can see on the screen, the next table I want to share, this is just a base case. I'm just assuming in the rest of this year, I can kind of continue what I've already done and get another 5% dividend growth this year. And then in 26, 27, 28, 29, and 2030, I could get about 10% dividend income per year growth. Although it may get more difficult to hit that 10% as time goes on because the portfolio will get bigger and capital infused into a larger portfolio will not move the snowball as much. But Nonetheless, I believe this 10% is my base case and realistic goal. What you can see here is I'm starting at 100%. It's just kind of 1 or 100%. How does it grow over time? Well, by the end of 2030, I'm getting to about 169.1%. And so there's a gap. I'm trying to get to 200%. There's a gap of 30 percentage points. Basically, the base case, if I want to reach a double by 2030, the base case, hey, it's not going to get me there. So this is why I like to look at the math so much, because I need to find alternate strategies, or at least be realistic with myself to understand when I'm going to reach my dividend dream state. But let's look at some other alternatives. I have a few. As you can see on the screen in front of you, here is alternative 1. So in alternative 1, if I really want to get to 200% or a double, I want to get to 200% of my current income, basically one option is to say, hey, Ian, yeah, you've been averaging 10% recently, but if you look back 1.1 years, you are up a staggering 19.51%. Maybe you can do a little bit better. Maybe you can really push it. Maybe you can average 13% per year. Well, if I average 13% per year, basically I get to my goal, or just shy of my goal. I get to 196% of current income by the end of 2030. Nice. And so obviously it's going to be a lot harder to push the snowball 13% growth per year than 10%, but I believe it's possible because I've done it before. And if I have some higher yielding stocks that go on sale, there's a few I'm eyeing right now, and I'm able to deploy some capital really efficiently the way I did in those sin stocks. Hey, it could boost that snowball. I could probably average out 13%, get to my goal. But let's look at it another way, because maybe that 13%, maybe it's possible in the short run, but it will be increasingly difficult in the long run. Well, let's look. As you can see on the screen, the next model, this one is kind of front loading it. And so I'm thinking here, and honestly, this may be the most plausible of all scenarios. Look, over the long run steady state, I do believe I'm growing my income about 10% per year. But I do think in the short run, maybe even the remainder of this year, 2026, 2027, can I get some really hyper growth out of my dividend income? I think I can, because I can kind of foresee the short run that I'm going to have some opportunities to deploy some capital that is coming in because I'm working very hard for active income that I can convert into passive income. And then I may slow down a little bit when 2028 hits and subsequently. Well, I can get to my goal this way if I front load it a little bit and kind of compound that snowball faster in the short run. I think getting another 15% out of 2025 would be the hardest goal of all. Maybe impossible, but I could strive for it. So that's another way to hit the goal. I think that's possible. But also, I have another lever. There's actually another lever to the snowball. I have the snowball up here, and I talk about capital deployed, reinvestment. I talk about dividend increases, but there's another lever, and the other lever is time. What if I just move this arbitrary deadline of kind of circa 2030 and push it out a few years? Check it out. Let's just say I take it easy. Let's say I live a more balanced life. I don't have to front load deploying more capital. Maybe I take more vacations. I just enjoy life. I just use my 10% that I'm getting kind of as a base case, but push it out through the end of 2032. Well, if I just push things out another 2 years, I reach my goal of another double that way as well. Realistically, when I look at my numbers, I believe I'm probably looking end of 2030, maybe dipping into 2031. And this is all possible. I'm not going for super high yielders all the time, although I do have a huge allocation to sin stocks. I'm not taking undue risk, I don't believe, for my very personal situation. Obviously not financial advice. I never share financial advice. I'm just sharing my personal journey for fun and entertainment. But I'm doing this with a well-rounded dividend portfolio with a current yield that is hovering in kind of the 3.7 to 3.8% range. I'm doing it thanks to dedication, decades of being in the game, and the dividend snowball. And so I want to share with all of you out of this exercise, this was very encouraging for me because finally I feel like I'm on the home stretch and it's been a long time. And so I want to share with you just some of the other takeaways from this exercise. As you can see on the screen in front of you right now, there are a few. So, dividend stock investing, look, it works. I like to measure dividend income over time, generally at quarterly values intervals, and the dividend income grows steadily while portfolio value can fluctuate. Look, even during a bad quarter, the snowball drove results. And I believe during this quarter, what really picked up the slack were the dividend increases. I now believe I'm in a steady state of compounding where I'm kind of at about 10% per year. I'm focused on what I can control. That's deploying capital, diversification, staying in the right stocks, maybe going a little more kind of high risk in certain trades, but more or less keeping my risk balanced. I believe it's possible to accelerate the snowball by taking advantage of buying opportunities. I believe the snowball may compound faster these days. That's something I didn't mention yet. I'm really excited about this, but dividend stocks in general are yielding more these days than they have in the past. Interest rates are higher. Capital has adjusted accordingly. Dividend stocks right now are yielding really great starting yields. That's great for the snowball and for reinvestment. I'm getting pretty close here, about 6 years out. I'm so excited. We can use math to model the future and plan our lives. It's good to have regular check-ins and fine-tune one's approach. So everyone, if you enjoyed the video today, please go ahead and click the like button. It means the world to me. Also, if you have not already, please subscribe to my channel because I'm always sharing new videos about dividend stock investing. Also, before I leave today, I have a really exciting update. So many of you know I'm on a platform called Blossom Social. This is a social media platform for investors with a lot of dividend investors on there. I will link in the pinned comment below to my affiliate link. In terms of full disclosure, I'm an affiliate of Blossom Social. Well, Blossom Social is going to be having some conferences coming up, and they are going to be really great. And in Toronto, they are going to have their flagship conference. So I will be there in Toronto, and I'm going to be speaking at Blossom Social's main event. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to link in the pinned comment below so you can sign up for Blossom. In terms of full disclosure, I'm an affiliate of Blossom. I'm also going to share the link so that you can register for the event in Toronto if you would like to join and see me there, meet me there, hear me speak. I can't wait to network with all the great dividend investors there in Toronto. And a huge shout out and thank you to my personal friend Brandon Beavis for kindly inviting PPC Ian to speak at the event. All right, everyone, before I go today, in terms of a friendly disclaimer, today's video is not investment advice. I'm not a licensed investment advisor. Today's video is just for fun and entertainment. I'm sharing my journey here on YouTube for fun and entertainment. It's possible to lose money in the stock market. Before you invest, please go ahead and consult your licensed financial advisor. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. It's possible to lose money. Oh boy. I'm feeling a little under the weather these days, so thank you everyone for hanging in there with me. I have all my disclosures, disclaimers, all that kind of stuff in the description below. Also, before I go in terms of full disclosure, I am long Blossom Social. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I can't wait to see you in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next dividend stock investing video.